The Chosen Season 5 is closer than ever, and of course we're anticipating things like an official trailer to come out, official release dates for parts 2 and 3 that we don't quite have yet, and the filming of Season 6, which you're going to want to pay attention to as well. Today, we're going to go into my top 10 things that I'm anticipating coming into Season 5, the things that I am most excited about overall. So let's start off right off the bat with number 1, which is the cleansing of the temple. Now this, of course, is the main kind of image that we've seen for Season 5 in a lot of different places where Jesus has a whip. Now, what's really interesting about this to me is that it's not just that Jesus is whipping people and he's running around and he's hurting people, but that he's cleansing the temple, right? That he's cleansing the temple during the week of Passover. And I love the fact that in The Chosen, they have the kind of interpretation of him as he makes his own whip, seemingly the night before. We actually saw this in the teaser trailer that they released a little while ago, where Jesus is forming his own whip. He's making his own whip the night before he goes to cleanse the temple. And then he brings the whip with him, knowing what he's going to do. This is such an amazing little kind of tiny piece of scripture that I think a lot of people pass by. And so I'm really excited to see the cleansing of the temple, how they do that, how Jonathan really shows that anger and that frustration and that passion that Jesus would have had during that time. So I'm really, really excited about that. That's number 1. Let's head over to number 2. Number 2 is going to be the Last Supper, of course. There's a lot that goes along with the Last Supper, including John chapter 17, the high priestly prayer, including the institution of communion, right, which is a massive thing. This is going to be so awesome. I'm so excited to see how they interact with all the different apostles, with Judas and with John and with Peter. There's a lot of really amazing moments during the Last Supper, and I believe this is going to take place over like 2 episodes. At least portions of the Last Supper will be in 2 different episodes here, which is going to be really amazing. Now, we've looked into the behind the scenes for the Last Supper and everything else for a really long time. We even have a scene that takes place during the Last Supper at the very end of it, where Andrew and the rest of the apostles actually sing a song, which I told you guys about in a previous video if you want to go check that out. But I'm really looking forward to the Last Supper. There's so much here to break down, and I cannot wait until we see all that The Chosen has done with this one. Now, let's head over to number 3. Number 3 is close to the Last Supper, but it happens right before. Now, Dallas, during the behind the scenes of filming Season 5, there was this moment that he shared on his personal Instagram story that says, "The foot of a fisherman, the hands of the creator of the universe." I know you can't see that whole thing. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. It says, the foot of a fisherman, the hands of the creator of the universe. And this, of course, is Jesus washing Peter's feet. This is going to be awesome. Remember in the scriptures where Peter says, Lord, you can't wash my feet. Like basically saying like, I'm not worthy for you to do this. But then we see him as Jesus explains it to him. He goes, oh, then don't just wash my feet, wash all of me, right? And so we're going to see that from Peter here, really stepping into this leadership role, really stepping into kind of a submissive role with Jesus here as Jesus becomes the servant and he washes the feet of his apostles. This is going to be an amazing moment that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about right now when it comes to Season 5. This is going to be really, really amazing and one of my all-time favorite moments, I think, for the Chosen series overall. That's number 3. Let's head on to number 4, and that is this little guy right here. Judas Iscariot. Oh man, this is going to be such a great season for him. I have watched a lot of the behind the scenes of Luke's work going into this season. And this season for Luke, I think, is going to be really, really interesting, him playing Judas. His downfall into the darkness that is the betrayal of Jesus, it's going to be so unique because in so many other projects, we really haven't seen Judas take as long of a journey as we're seeing him take in The Chosen. We're seeing 2 full seasons of Judas being part of the group, basically. Season 3 and Season 4, he joined into the group, he's fully part of the group, and he did the mission of Jesus. I mean, he cast out demons, he healed people, he was doing the things that Jesus asked him to do. And then he starts to doubt. He starts to second guess. He starts to see that Jesus isn't doing things in the way that he thinks that he should. And so he starts to kind of make his own plans. And that's what we're seeing unfold in Season 5, as we're going to basically end the season right at the betrayal, where Judas is finally getting there. We saw it in season 4 as he started to steal money, but now in season 5, we're actually getting to the betrayal itself, which is going to be intense, I think. It's going to be a really interesting moment there. So that is number 4. Let's head on to number 5, and that is this moment with Dallas Jenkins himself. As we talked about recently in a video, this is confirmed now that the Roman guard that we're looking at right here is Dallas Jenkins. He has finally gotten his cameo in The Chosen, and I believe that this is the destruction of the temple. So during the time of Jesus, the second temple was obviously the main point of the Jewish religion, where everybody would go and they would celebrate and they would pay homage and they would sacrifice. And then in 70 AD, about 40 years after Christ was killed and then resurrected and then ascended, we see this happen in 70 AD, the destruction of the temple. And that's where it sits today, right? This is where the temple was destroyed, and since then it has never been rebuilt. And so this is a really important moment for Judaism, because this is the moment where they lost access to the Holy of Holies. This is the moment when they lost access to basically running their religion as they thought that they should, right? Or as God told them that they should. Well, not in all cases, because they kind of took things too far in a lot of cases. But anyway, but beyond that, this is going to be really exciting. Now, I do think that this is going to take place in context of maybe the Olivet Discourse, which is Jesus when he talks about basically how he is going to, his body is going to die and then he's going to resurrect it in 3 days. But he does that in the form of kind of an analogy to the temple, right? The temple will be destroyed, and in 3 days I will raise it up again. He's talking about himself, right? From the grave back to life and then being ascended, but also the temple is a piece of that. And he's kind of foreshadowing and prophesying that a future destruction of the temple as well. And so we're going to probably see that during that same kind of moments there. So we're going to get flashbacks and flash forwards, hopefully, for season 5. But hold on to the flashbacks. We're going to get there in just a second. Real quick, before we get to number 6, and trust me, you're going to want to stay till number 10, I wanted to remind you about Patreon, snipesupport.com. This is by far the best place to help us to continue to make videos just like this and to support our content over here. For $5, $10, or $25 a month, you can go sign up and get a bunch of extra content. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Next up, we've got these two. Now, these two, Pilate and Claudia, and we'll kind of add Atticus in there as well. These are going to be really interesting characters for season 5. And I guess we add like Caiaphas. I guess all the antagonists. I'm really interested to see how they round out. Caiaphas, of course, we're going to get a lot more of him in this season than we got previously. We only got a couple of different scenes with him in season 4. Season 5, we should get a lot more. Not only in the Sanhedrin itself, but also in Caiaphas's home. We're going to get a lot of different things, including Judas coming to Caiaphas through his servant Malchus and having that moment where he betrays Jesus and he takes the silver for himself. Now, Pilate and Claudia specifically are going to be really interesting because Pilate is kind of on this journey of figuring out how to be a leader during this tumultuous time. It's not long after Jesus' death and resurrection that Pilate actually gets kind of ousted from his position. And so we're seeing the first little kind of cracks of his decline in his leadership during the time that Jesus is there in Jerusalem and he is crucified. And so Claudia, of course, is having dreams in The Chosen. She is worried about what is happening here, and she's worried about Pilate being involved with Jesus. And she's going to warn him soon, probably in season 6, right? She's going to warn him in season 6, hey, don't have anything to do with this, right? She's been having these dreams, and she really feels like that he should stay out of it. We'll see if that happens or not. We know that it won't, but we can see that that's kind of ramping up here as Claudia is having more and more dreams. Pilate is getting more and more frustrated with her, and he's having to deal with Atticus as well, because Atticus can see that Pilate is not up to snuff when it comes to the leadership that he should have. And so that relationship is going to get a bit more antagonistic this season, which is going to be interesting. So I'm really interested in these characters as well. Next up, we got the flashbacks. Now, in a recent video that The Chosen put out, a wrap-up video, we got a bunch of different flashbacks from a lot of different characters, not even just these characters. These are the first ones that we knew about from the behind the scenes, Little James and Thaddeus. We know that they're going to go back in time and they're going to show Jesus with these other characters, not even just that when he first had them follow him, but also right when they met as well. There's a whole scene that they set up where they show Thaddeus and Jesus actually building the bathrooms that they talk about in season 1 and how they met. And then also little James back at the choir as he's trying out for the choir of the 288 in Jerusalem. And there's a bunch more in here as well. If we look back here, we see Gaius again right at the beginning of this video. And of course, we didn't know if we were going to see Gaius again at all in The Chosen because overall, his part is kind of done here. But in this shot here, not only do we see Gaius, but if we back up a little bit, we also see a younger Matthew. And so in this scene here, it's definitely another flashback as they ended the season here with Matthew's shaved beard and Gaius here as well. And so there's a bunch of different people throughout this whole entire video that point us towards this flashbacks that we're seeing. Here's Matthew here, Paris as Matthew right there. You can kind of see him, a younger version of him. So there's a bunch of them that are here in this season that are flashbacks to, I guess, when they first met Jesus, or maybe even different times throughout. It's not super clear yet, but we are going to get a bunch of flashbacks, which I always love, kind of messing with the timeline there. Not that I love messing with the timeline, because the timeline is pretty important to me, but it's that I love seeing kind of where everything came from and getting more of that lore on the back end here. Now, this next one is a scripture. There is a small video that I have from months and months and months ago, but I'm not going to pull it up right here. We know that this is going to happen because we heard Jonathan Rumi quoting lines from this specific scripture. This is one of the things that I am the most excited about. This list is kind of ramping up into what I'm most excited about for the season. This could change The Chosen forever. And I don't say that lightly. This is really a big deal. The Chosen, of course, has not really been very supernatural. I know that we've had moments of healing, for example. We've had demons in the show, but it's all from the perspective of a human, right? How a human would see those things. We don't really see angels other than the Messengers and the Shepherd series, the specials that they did. We don't really see angels, and even in those, you see kind of like the blinding light. You don't see the angels themselves, right? So there's not a lot of things in The Chosen that are very supernatural. However, in The Chosen Season 5, we know that we're getting this scene right here. The Son of Man must be lifted up. So this is John chapter 12, verse 27. And so Jesus says this. He says, "Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this purpose I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name." So that's the section of dialogue that we actually got from the behind the scenes months ago on The Chosen Season 5. But then we get this moment here right after that. It says, "Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." Never in The Chosen have we heard the voice of the Father. Not a single time, right? We never got it because we didn't get John the Baptist and Jesus, right? We didn't get that baptism moment where God speaks, where God the Father speaks. But now it looks like we're going to get that moment. I really don't see Dallas cutting this out of the script. Like, it really would not make sense to put in this scripture that we know is in The Chosen, because we saw it in the behind the scenes being filmed in Jerusalem. It really wouldn't make sense for him to take away this moment where God speaks. So I'm really excited for this. This will change The Chosen forever. It will really bring us to a new supernatural sort of moment within The Chosen that we've never gotten before. And that is really exciting to me. And so if we continue on in this verse, you can kind of see what happens. The crowd that stood there and heard it said that it had thundered. So some people just thought it was thunder that happened. Others said an angel spoke to him. Jesus answered, "The voice has come for your sake, not mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the ruler of this world be cast out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." So he's, again, prophesying his crucifixion here, and he's talking about the voice from heaven and that it's God, right? That it's the Father. Really, really, really cool stuff there. Now, we got last few ones here. Next up is Kaphni. Now, of course, we know what happened with Rhema in season 4. We know everything that kind of transpired with that, but we're going to see a real kind of rebellion of Kaphni and Kaphni's people. We may even be introduced to Kaphni's son, who would be Rhema's brother in this season. And this is going to be really interesting because like it's going to really build up Coffney to be, I think, a major player in season 6. I believe Coffney is going to be one of the main people that starts the crowd chanting, crucify him, in season 6. And so I could see that for sure. Coffney's a big player. I don't think a lot of people realize that when they're thinking about The Chosen overall. Coffney is a really important character because they wouldn't set up Rhema's death without there being a consequence of Coffney doing something later on in the series, right? And so I'm really excited for what's to come with him. I believe we're going to meet his wife as well, which would be Rhema's mother. And so there's potential for us to meet some of her other family members. We do know that she has a brother because of season 2, episode 3. She talks about having a brother, but we never meet him, right? And we never see him in any of the scenes that bring us to Teldor whenever she's visiting there. So, yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Now, last, but certainly not least, actually by far not the least, my most anticipated thing, I looked back since April of 2024, okay? I've been talking about this since April of 2024, so nearly a year we've been talking about this, is the return of this guy right here, Nicodemus. I truly believe this has to be the season that they return Nicodemus to where he was, and I think there's obviously a big place in Scripture where that could happen. There's only 3 places in Scripture where Nicodemus shows up. Number 1, John chapter 3, the Nick at night scene, where he is talking with Jesus under the cover of night. He's talking about how the kingdom of heaven works and how salvation works and all that kind of stuff. So that's a big, big scene there. The second time that we see him is during basically the moment that we're in The Chosen now, where Jesus is being arrested and they're trying to bring him in order to essentially either put him in jail or to kill him. But then Nicodemus speaks up and defends Jesus. And he says, you can't do that, basically. Like, we need to have a trial. And so the third time that we see Nicodemus is when he's burying Jesus. So we should, emphasis on should, we should see Nicodemus not only in season 5, but also in season 6 or 7, depending on when they do the actual burial of Jesus. I'm not sure when season 6 will end, but we should see Nicodemus in both those places there. That would be my guess for sure. And I've been talking about this forever, and I'm really, really confident in all the information that we've had since April of 2024, because we have a lot of evidence of this actually happening. One of the best pieces of evidence is actually not seeing Eric Ovari on set, but we did see his on-screen wife, Janice, who is Zahara, who plays Zahara. If you remember back to season 1 of The Chosen, we see her traveling with Nicodemus, and she's in Capernaum, and she's begging him to leave to go back to Jerusalem. However, right here, we see her again on set. This was a picture that was posted and then swiftly deleted offline. But of course, we are the super sleuths here on the channel, so we have that picture. But this was swiftly deleted offline because they didn't want people to know, but this is definitely pointed towards Nicodemus, right? She seems to be in some sort of, I wouldn't call this a Sanhedrin, but some sort of scroll room. And so that points to her being with Nicodemus somewhere. She has no reason to be in a scroll room, right? So unless she's talking to a different Pharisee, which she really wouldn't do, and she has her head uncovered, which means that she's probably talking to her husband in their household, would be my guess. So yeah, a lot of really, really cool things here. A lot of really great moments. That is number 10. Let me know your thoughts. What are you most excited for in The Chosen Season 5? Those are my top 10, even though there's definitely more than that. Those are my top 10 things that I'm most anticipating for The Chosen Season 5. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.